Welcome to the Heal Your Hunger Show, where we get to the heart of why you overeat and how to stop. If you struggle with food and weight like I did, welcome home.
Welcome to the Heal Your Hunger Show. So happy to have you here. It is a great day to be alive, and I am recording this from Maine, way down East Maine. That means I'm really far east on the Maine state, and I'm so far east that I'm close to Canada. So it's really beautiful, and I'm going to give you in just a few minutes updates on kind of just fun things I've encountered while here in this beautiful setting. But first of all, I want to welcome you to the show. If you're here for the first time, welcome. The Heal Your Hunger Show is where I cover all the hidden causes of emotional eating, all the reasons why you're compelled to go to the refrigerator time and time again. If you have cravings constantly, if you think about food 24/7, if you just feel like you can't lose weight no matter how hard you've tried or how many diets you've tried, guess what? It's usually because of that little sneaky thing called emotional eating. And there's a lot to unpack if you're an emotional eater. There's a lot of reasons why we are drawn to food for emotional reasons. And I love digging into that and really helping you understand what that's about and how to stop, most importantly. So welcome. And if you've been here before, welcome back. I'm really touched and grateful that you're here. If you're not sure if you're an emotional eater, if you've been kind of like, I don't know, definitely check out my free quiz at healyourhunger.com, because you'll know exactly where you stand on the emotional eating spectrum, whether you're an emotional eater or a food addict or somewhere in between. If you do take that quiz, it's free. It takes about 3 minutes to take, and it's on healyourhunger.com. So definitely check that out. And lastly, definitely join me in the Secret Sauce group, the Secret Sauce to End Emotional Eating on Facebook. Just type in Secret Sauce to End Emotional Eating and request to join, and boom, you'll be there. You'll get support. You'll get hot off the press updates, also interviews, and a lot of my podcasts are recorded live there. So check it out. And oops, there is one more thing. I'm doing a Quit Sugar Challenge next week. So if you happen to listen to this, guess what? It's time. It's time to quit sugar, and I want to help you do it. I'm going to show you the very things the vital information I learned when I was first on my recovery journey. This information has lasted me for decades, and it has been the key element in my understanding the impact of sugar on my body and how to avoid hidden sugars, and also how to enjoy sweet foods without sugar. So I'm going to cover all that in my Quit Sugar Challenge. So if you want to register for that, do it now. QuitSugarChallenge.com. QuitSugarChallenge.com. Go there and join us for that. So that's it for my announcements. On with the show. Today's show is the true cause of self-sabotage for emotional eaters. And by the way, if you hear motors in the background, that's because I'm here at the mouth of a bay, and I actually have lobster boats all around me. So those are lobster boats that you hear. Isn't that cool? So yeah, that's what that motor sound is. Speaking of which, I was going to tell you about my Maine, just kind of a few quirky things that I've been able to enjoy since being here in Maine. And so one of them is the fact that there are blueberries and raspberries everywhere. And every time I'm cycling on one of my rides, I get to stop and just pick a few raspberries and a few blueberries, and it's so much fun, and it just reminds me that I'm back in this amazing place called Maine that I have missed for so long, and I'm so grateful to be a part of now. So yeah, if you see any photos in the Secret Sauce group, oftentimes I'll post some of me picking blueberries or cycling. It's such an important part of my life now. A few other funny things on my cycling the other day. Different people who are lobstermen, they sell lobsters and crab meat and lobster bait and that kind of thing straight out of their house. And so I was cycling by one guy's house, and he was actually selling lobster, but he had a funny sign, and the sign said wild caught, free range, and gluten-free. So I just got the biggest kick out of that gluten-free lobster. You know, the free range and wild caught. I mean, he might have been serious about that. I don't know. I mean, it's kind of obvious, right? Like that it's free range and wild caught. But the gluten-free part just cracked me up because of course it's gluten-free. Why would lobsters be eating gluten? So I don't know if that was a tongue-in-cheek move on his part or whether he really thought that, you know, all the people from Boston and New York who come up to Maine in the summertime they're gonna bite, you know, they're gonna take the bait, you know, and be like, oh, let's stop here, it's gluten-free. You know, I just thought that was the cutest thing. So anyway, you know, lobstermen have senses of humor for sure. Okay, so my show today is about self-sabotage because so many people just get, you know, really hung up on this. It's a huge part of why they keep struggling with food and weight. And I want to help you understand this. And I'm going to use my cycling as a way to really get into this. This is going to be a quick show, but I really want to drive this point home and hopefully it will help you. You see, when somebody cycles, this is all new to me, this whole world of cycling. My boyfriend is a cycler. He's been a pro cycler for 10 years. He earned a living as a cyclist on a team, you know, sponsored by Coca-Cola and different, you know, research companies and whatever, you know, corporations sponsor cycling teams, and he was one of those cyclists. So he's spent over 40 years as a cyclist. He's still super intense about it, cycles every single day, and now I'm a part of that. So he cycles every day. If he cycles with me, he might cycle a second time because I'm like his recovery ride, you know, because I'm like, do, you know, it's all new to me and I have no interest in being intense about it. I just, you know, I want to exercise my body and feel stronger and experience cycling and the beauty that I get to see when I'm on the road, on these side roads of Maine, these back roads of Maine. So it's really wonderful and I'm enjoying myself so much. But, you know, when I first started, I got a bike. Then, you know, I was cycling with normal sneakers. You know, I had my sneakers on when I cycled. And that's good because I was just learning the bike and, you know, being on the road and, you know, all that kind of thing, my balance. I mean, I cycled as a kid, but it'd been 30 years. So after you kind of get the hang of it, then you upgrade to a special kind of sneaker, a special kind of shoe actually. It's not a sneaker, it's a bike shoe. And you also need special kind of pedals on your bike. So we went to the bike shop, we had these pedals installed, and then I got the special shoes and they weren't cheap. They were like upwards of $200. But they're special kind, they've got Velcro closing. You can also tighten them as you go. It's kind of like ski boots. So they have a little lever thing that you can pull up while you're cycling. You can just kind of pull on it and tighten your shoe. They're really cool, you know, but they're biking shoes. You know, they're not for going out at night. So they have these special clips underneath the shoe at the on the ball of the foot that clips into the pedal. And so this is a cool thing because it means that your leg is kind of one with the pedal, and it's supposed to help really with your efficiency of energy and your strength as you cycle and pedal. And so here I am, I'm getting to be a big girl on the bike and I get to go and, you know, use these new clip-in shoes. And the problem with the clip-in shoes is you clip into them and then you don't have use of your leg except for pedaling. So you have to clip out in order to be able to stand with your bike. So what this means, if you're missing it at all, because I'm not being articulate, what this means is when you come to a stop on your bike, you'd better unclip your legs so you can stand on your bike. And if you don't, your legs are still attached to the pedal and you will tip over. Like literally, doop, tip over, okay? Guess who's tipped over 3 times so far? Yeah, me. So, and I think everybody does when they first learn how to do this because it's a lot. You know, you're cycling, you're stopping at the stoplight, you know, you're doing, you know, trying to get it all together, and you have to remember to clip out. So you have your legs and you can stand and balance yourself when you're not moving. So yes, my very first ride with my new fancy shoes, they're kind of black patent leather, by the way. They're shiny black. They're wonderful. I think they are actually black patent leather, but they're super cool. And I was so excited and I was on my bike, but I didn't clip out when I came to a stop sign. The first stop sign we came to, we rolled through it, and I didn't have to stop. So I'm like, oh, cool. If I roll, I don't have to stop. I don't have to clip out. So let's just keep that ball rolling, so to speak. Let's, each time we come to a stop, let's cross our fingers that we don't have to stop. Well, of course I'm going to have to stop. I want to get run over by a truck, and it's not always the case that when you go to a stop sign, there's nobody there and you don't have to stop. So we came to a stop sign, and I just was kind of hoping the coast was clear. It looked like it was, but when Richard got there, he said, there's a car coming, we got to stop. Well, I hadn't kind of sent the message to my legs yet to clip out. And sure enough, I came to a dead stop, and I completely tipped over on my side of my butt. And I broke my fall with my left wrist, or hand, but I totally tipped over, and it was a thud on the pavement, and I had a huge bruise on my hip. But when it happened, I had at least 4 cars that were turning right that got to see me do this. And it was so embarrassing. I actually had an audience, and every time, as I said, I've done this 3 times, I've had an audience. It's just must be just how I like it. I like to, perform for everybody and make people laugh. So I fall over and everybody gets to see it. So anyway, so I did it twice that first day, and just recently I did it again. But I have to say, I'm getting much better, and I've ridden lots of times with these new shoes and these new pedals. And I am now reminding myself, because of that first day when I fell twice, I am getting much better at reminding myself to clip out. I even have a little conversation in my head about it. I'm like, Tricia, clip out, when I'm coming up to a stop sign, or if I happen to, once in a while, up here in Maine, there's so much sand on the side of the roads, because during the winter time, they're salting and sanding the roads. So there's piles of sand on the side of the roads. Well, and there's oftentimes not a shoulder to ride on these back roads. So a few times I've not been focused, and I've ridden off the side of the shoulder into that big thing of sand. And, if I don't clip out right then, again, the sand is going to stop me, and I'm going to fall right over. So I'm getting better at, when something happens, telling myself, Tricia, clip out, because I remember how painful it was to fall both times that first day, because and good thing is I balanced myself out. I had a bruise on one hip, and then I had a bruise on the other hip. I had a bruise on one knee, and then instead of the other knee, I had a bruise on my elbow. So I'm like, okay, I'm balanced enough falling for me. And only one other time have I done it, and that time I was clipped out, but I didn't clip both legs out, and so I just my balance was off when I was just standing there. It was kind of embarrassing. And again, I had an audience. I gave some people a laugh. But here's my point. The pain of not clipping out has taught me to clip out. Why is that significant? Because I learned from my mistakes, and I have changed the dialogue in my mind. So instead of saying, oh, it's a stop sign, I'm going to just roll right through, I'm like, it's a stop sign, Tricia, just in case there's cars coming, clip out. Clip out, Tricia. And it's a mantra in my head, because I have to remind myself. And I'm sure there's going to come a time when I don't have to remind myself. It's so habitual, just like driving a car. But for now, I have a dialogue that is, Tricia, clip out. It's a warning system because of the pain. So the reason why I bring this up is because the true cause of self-sabotage, in my experience, is the lack of learning from our mistakes. And the reason for that is denial. Okay? So my experience with emotional eaters is that we don't learn. We don't learn from the painful episodes of binge eating. We don't learn from the painful experience of losing the weight and putting it all back on again. We don't learn. And why don't we learn? Because the primary function, the number one function of addictive eating, of any addiction in fact, is denial. Is that part of our brain that tells us we don't have a problem and we don't need to go to such great lengths to heal it. And I talk to women every day who are suffering with emotional eating. I mean, they are suffering. They are binge eating. They're obsessed with food 24/7. They have had, knee problems, shoulder problems, hip problems, heart problems, diabetes, depression, anxiety, social awkwardness, self-consciousness, lack of confidence, lack of self-esteem, hiding out, isolating, anger, being snippy and snappy with people in their lives, with people they love, not wanting to have sex anymore, having distance from their spouse because of it. There are so many consequences that come from being an emotional eater and being out of control with food that would definitely make a person think twice. A normal person think twice about continuing to eat that sugar again, by continuing to try to eat ice cream in just one bowl or one bite, in trying to just let go of all caution, and just eating whatever they want. There are so many indications that they have to address this problem at a deeper level. I mean, diets aren't going to work. So yes, I get, so many of these women who come to me, they've been on so many diets, decades of diets, absolute decades of diets, and they've only faced the symptom of food and weight. They haven't gone deeper. And there are so many indicators that that's what they need to do. They need to stop dieting. They need to start getting serious about why they're driven to overeat, about why they're self-sabotaging. And yet they don't. I offer them a solution and they say, you know what, I'm going to try it on my own for a little while longer. When they've already done that for 2, 3, 4 decades. How much evidence does a person need to know that they can't do it on their own, that they can't do it by dieting, that they can't do it by just, trying a little harder? That doesn't work if you're addicted. You need a system. You need an actual step-by-step system for overcoming the underlying causes of emotional eating. I'm sorry, but that's been my experience, and that's the truth. When my clients do that, they stop emotional eating, they start losing weight, and they start breaking free from their lifelong bondage to food. So why is it that a woman would say no to that? Why is it? It's because of this function of denial, telling ourselves we don't have a problem, telling ourselves we can handle it, basically lying to ourselves after having so many years. Look at your track record. After having so many years of trying and failing, there is evidence that you need a different way, that you need to go on a different tack and stop, doing what you've always done. And yet we forget, right? Emotional eaters always forget. And the reason why I draw the analogy with clipping out on my bike is because imagine if I came up to that stop sign and I lied to myself and I said, you don't need to clip out. You're going to be fine this time. You can roll right through. And every time I had to stop because I didn't want to get hit by a car or a bus, and I had to stop, and boom, I tipped right over again. What if at every stop sign, every stoplight, I lied to myself and said, I got this. I'm going to roll through. I'm not going to clip out. It's too much trouble. You got to clip out, then you got to put your feet down on the ground, and then you have to get going again, and you have to clip back in. It's a little tricky. It's sort of like putting ski boots in a binding, and ski bindings, that's the closest thing to what it is. So it's a little mechanically, involved. Pain in the butt. Better to stay clipped in. What if I lied to myself and said, I got this? Every time I got this, I know what I'm doing. And every time I tipped over, I would be so bloodied and bruised. I was twice in one day. I was bloodied and bruised. What if I did that every time I went out cycling? I cycle almost every day now because I'm with a guy who cycles every day. I probably wouldn't do that much. I'm not fanatical about it. But every day, or at least maybe 4 days a week, I'm cycling. What if every single time I'm like, I don't need to clip out. And every time I fell over, I got sand in my wounds, my past wounds from the day before, and I had bruises up and down my body. What if I did that? People would think I was insane, right? My boyfriend would be like, this girl is whacked. I keep telling her to clip out, and she acts like she doesn't need to. what's wrong with her? He might be looking for another girlfriend, because it would be insane for me to continue to pretend I didn't need to clip out, to continue to deny the fact that I needed to clip out. And this may seem silly, okay, to draw this analogy, but I hope that it really drives home that this is what's happening to emotional eaters. We don't have that voice in our head that tells us, remember the pain of the last binge? Remember the last time you lost 100 pounds and you put it back on? Are you really going to do another diet or another fast? Are you really going to get weight loss surgery and do nothing about the emotional eating? You're gonna like permanently like disfigure your body and not do anything about the fact that you're emotionally drawn to food? You see, emotional eaters don't have that voice in their head. They lie to themselves. I got this time it'll be different. Sure, they dress their diets up as something, helping their longevity. I'm going to do keto, or I'm going to do intermittent fasting, whatever. There's diets nowadays that get dressed up as, good for your health and good for your longevity. And the science is there. Okay, I'm not refuting that. But I'm pointing out that emotional eaters, they lie to themselves. They say, I'm doing this for my health, or I'm doing this for longevity. But they're really doing it because they're hoping to lose weight. They're hoping that it'll be the diet that works without ever addressing emotional eating. So they're lying to themselves, just like if I were lying to myself that I needed to clip out. And every time they're getting bloodied and bruised, just like I would if I didn't clip out. Okay? So that's the problem, is the emotional eater self-sabotages because the emotional eater lies to herself constantly. She's in denial that emotional eating's a real thing, that she can handle it on her own, that she can read a book and get it. I have a book. I have an amazing book. I love it. I just read it. I'm going to get it up for Audible, so somebody can listen to it on Audible. It's a great book. It's so right on. But it will not save you alone. If you're a real emotional eater, you've got to have the community. You've got to have the fellowship and people who can support you. So we lie to ourselves that we can do this on our own. We can get it from a book. We can take a do-it-yourself course and just get it. But my experience is this is the hardest of all addictions to overcome, and you've got to have support. You have to have coaching because there are underlying causes you cannot see. You've got blind spots. And so every day you're going out, emotional eating's got very little to do with food. It has everything to do with how we're living. You see, it's a living problem, not an eating problem. And that's also where the denial is. We keep trying to fix the eating, but we're not fixing the living. You must fix the living. You must live differently in order to eat differently. Okay, so we've got to stop lying to ourselves. And you're probably not going to do that unless you have somebody who's going to remind you, because the denial is so thick. That desire to do it on our own, not to bother anybody, not to, pay anything, not to admit to anybody that we're actually out of control, that is so thick, that's so deep in the heart. Denial is deep in the heart of every emotional eater. They don't want to believe they have a problem, and they don't believe they have to actually do something or go somewhere or sign up for something that will help them get to the heart of it. They just want so much to keep banging their head against the wall and hope it changes, that this time it'll be different. That is the lie of the emotional eater. That's the cause of self-sabotage. Okay, so I don't want to keep lying to myself. About clipping out. So when I go up to a light, I am talking to myself. I've got that voice in my head that says, Tricia, you better clip out because you don't want to feel that pain anymore. But the emotional eater doesn't have that voice that says, Tricia, you better start dealing with your emotional eating, or else you're going to have the pain of that binge again. And my binges were severe. Okay, my binges were, 3,000 calories, 4,000 calories in a sitting, ice cream, Doritos, chocolate chip cookies, Hershey's Kisses, it's so severe that I don't want to ever feel that pain again. and I have that voice in my head now because I've gotten to the bottom of emotional eating. I have that voice that says, it says, Tricia, don't even go there. Don't even think you can have one corn chip and stop. Don't even think that. I've got trigger foods and I know how a few corn chips can land me in that rabbit hole again and that deep binging. I know that. That's my experience, and I've accepted that. I do not have denial about being an emotional eater and a food addict. Okay? And there lies my solution, is I'm no longer in denial. So I'm here to hopefully get you out of denial. That's what this show's about right now, is helping wake you up. Roy, many years ago, had a friend from Texas who said, about her addictive habits. She said, I'm a slow learner and a fast forgetter. And that's my experience. As emotional eaters, we're slow learners and we're fast forgetters. That denial kicks in and we're like, I'm fine, I got this. I'm just going to have one piece of cake. What's the big deal? I'm just going to have some sugar. What's the big deal? I can handle it. It's not going to get me this time. I'll stop at one. I'll just have a handful. I won't eat the whole bag this time. And we do. Time and time again, we lie and then we get bitten by that lie and it hurts and we get bloodied and beaten up by food. So I want to help you avoid that. I want to avoid getting bruised anymore on my body, okay? I want to avoid that by very clearly knowing that if I don't clip out, I'm going to fall. I know that. I'm not in denial about it. I want you to come out of denial about the fact that if you're an emotional eater, no diet's going to work. No amount of figuring it out on your own or reading or researching on the internet is going to heal emotional eating. Not even therapy, okay? There are underlying causes that, you can start picking at with therapy, but my experience is you need a system for addressing emotional eating specifically, which includes going deeper, but my experience is emotional eaters typically don't overcome emotional eating just by going to therapy. So these are things I want you to come in out of denial about and start getting the help that you need, okay? Because the pain of overeating and all that goes with it, all the physical consequences, all the emotional consequences, all the spiritual consequences. I mean, when we're in the middle of a binge, we don't feel very close to God. We feel like God's deserted us. We're just in a dark hole and we feel like, where is God? So there are so many consequences on so many levels: social, mental, emotional, how we feel about ourselves, self-confidence. That's the thing I hear the most, is women just lose confidence in themselves. They don't want to be seen. They don't want to be touched. They don't want to speak up because they don't want to draw attention to themselves. They don't want to go out. Major consequences to battling this thing on their own, and continuing to fail because of the true cause of self-sabotage, which is denial. So I love you. I hope this has landed. This is your life we're talking about, okay? I'm not here, I've got a lighthearted attitude about life. I love living and I'm enjoying my life more than ever right now because I'm free from emotional eating by the grace of God and one day at a time. But underneath that, I'm deadly serious about this because this is a condition that takes lives, okay? And I don't want you to be in denial about that, because every day that you overeat and don't address it, every day that you carry that excess weight, you are shortening your life. So just saying, I love you and I'm here to help. So I hope if I've brought you out of denial even one little bit, I think that's a good thing, and I think I've done my job. So love you so much, and I'll see you on the next show, and hopefully in the Quit Sugar Challenge, quitsugarchallenge.com. Love you, love you, love you. Take care.
If you enjoyed this podcast and want to get free support, insider health info, exclusive invites to events, and more, visit healyourhunger.com.